Welcome, everybody. This panel is titled Entrepreneurship and Employment. What better way to start National Disability Employment Awareness Month than highlighting some amazing entrepreneurs and talking about entrepreneurship as a pathway for competitive integrated employment. As you may know, disabled people are twice more likely to pursue entrepreneurship as pathways for employment, so it feels very fitting to talk about that. So a lot of the panelists right here are dear friends and colleagues, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves and share a little bit about their background, but with a twist. So you'll share your role and also share, if you really knew me, you would know, and something about you. So I'll start. I'll model. Okay. So if you really knew me, you would know that I am one of the only Mexicans who does not eat spicy food. My name is Diego Mariscal, and I lead Together International, which is the largest accelerator for founders with disabilities. That's awesome. Let's go to you.
Hello, my name is Oprah Winfrey, and I own a media company. Okay, this is a great crowd. My name is Ruby Sunshine Taylor. I am the founder of Financial Joy School. We are a gaming and a financial education platform focused on empowering Black, Brown, and disabled families to build generational wealth no matter your income. Okay, I like that. Clapping for me. Thank you. Thank you. We have worked with Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank, the Navy Federal Credit Union, and the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center is our fiscal sponsor. So we are a for-profit and a nonprofit organization. I have two disabilities because God blessed me twice. The first one is I am a stutterer, and the second one is I have a traumatic brain injury. And that's about all. That's all, folks. Oh, one thing. Yeah, if you knew me, you would know that Warren Buffett would be the only man I would marry because I'm gay. All right.
Wow. How do I follow that? All right, that was fantastic, Oprah. Good job. So I'm Michael Zalle, and I'm the founder of YellowBird. I'm really grateful to be here. This is a thrill for me. It really is. So thank you for having me again. I'll start with the "if you really knew me" question. So if you really knew me, and people have been noticing, maybe I wear like different bracelets and necklaces. I make them, and I just started doing it as a hobby, and I now have enough that I could probably open a store. Except the cost of those things, if you look at what I would need to charge and the amount of time it takes me with one hand to string beads, never going to make money, so it's not exactly going to be a profitable venture. My company is called YellowBird. This is my fourth entrepreneurial venture. I'm a big believer in using technology to do good while doing well. And I really do believe that you have to be able to do both of those in order to sustain a business. And our company is, as somebody had asked about AI earlier, we essentially since 2019 have gone from one person and a goat trying to figure out what I was going to be when I grew up to we have about 6,600, something like that, people on our platform. And what we do is we use AI to help find people's superpowers. And so as you go through our onboarding, we focus on everybody has a skill, everybody has a capability. And what we do as an organization is we focus on how can we help you in the space that I work in right now, which is environmental health and safety. So you can think of us as OSHA, you can think of us as ADA, you can think of us as compliance, surveys, insurance. But what we do is we basically help people who need to generate additional income or different income find great opportunities, and my vision and mission, if I can figure out how to get some economic support, because it's not always an economic venture, is to make it all virtual so that those who are disabled or homebound or aren't able to be mobile can leverage the platform to monetize and become fiscally independent and create an income.
Thank you. That was good. Hi. Miles Sandler. I'm the director of policy at the Ewing, Marion, Kauffman Foundation, so just down the road in Kansas City. Really grateful to be here. So one thing, if you knew me, you would know about, Miles is not my first name. I have used it since 8th grade. It's technically my middle name. So that's my little secret. And I'll just share briefly. So the Kauffman Foundation, who sits in Kansas City, is a private foundation. We focus on 3 core areas that are through the lens of economic mobility. We focus on college access and completion, workforce, and entrepreneurship. So we're very excited to have this conversation. We have been a champion for entrepreneurship across the country since our inception, and have been kind of the forerunner of a lot of the research that has been dedicated to that field. But I think this is a really interesting, specific conversation that is not being had enough. So thank you.
My name is Maxwell Crawford, and I started doing my business. I'm a professional, and if you knew me, I went to Bluefield High School.
Nice. Awesome. Well, quite a diverse perspectives and panelists, which I'm really excited to dive deep into conversation. As we're talking about disability and entrepreneurship, I'm wondering if you could all share a bit about how has your disability, or Miles, in your case, lived experience with disability shape your entrepreneurship journey. And a lot of us heard earlier about policy changes and some barriers that people with disabilities face. So I specifically want to talk about, for example, systematic policy challenges that we may face. So many of you might know asset limitation. If you have more than $2,000 in your bank account, you're at risk of losing benefits. And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how has that affected your business, if at all. So let's go back this way. So let's start with you, Max.
Okay. I have not faced those challenges yet. Right now, the company is in my mom's name to protect me and my business.
Awesome. Do you want to share a little bit about your entrepreneurship journey and how you got started?
Yes.
So how did we start the company 10 years ago?
10 years ago, I started making them as a gifts for teachers, friends, and we like them. And then we started making them as a gifts with my mom and I in the kitchen. And then we started making them, and then we mailed them, and then we take it to post office, and then we started then.
So when did we launch the company? When did you start Max Mix?
Past no formula.
This past November. And how many retail stores are you in? You're in
I'm in 45
retail stores.
retail stores.
Every
Woo!
you can also buy it online.
And also you can order it online too.
Nice.
Okay, you want to pass that?
Do you want to keep going? You want me
Yeah,
to
no, go
ahead. So, it's interesting. We were briefly talking. So, 2 of my family members, very close family members, have disabilities. And my mom has a disability and has had SSI for a long time, but has always been an entrepreneur. And kind of similar to what Max is saying, I've oftentimes been the person that will run her technical business because it just allows her to keep that safety net, but also be able to do what she can contribute to the world, which is some amazing things. I think the challenge there is that we have to get our federal and ultimately our state governments to evolve, because the limitations that we're putting on people is just not helpful to our overall GDP. It actually doesn't allow for folks to kind of get to their full potential. And there's a recognition, I think, that, when you have a disability, there are going to be times that you're going to need that safety net, right? It's not going to be perfect and flawless all the time, but if you can have the ability to do everything that you can contribute and not have those levels of limitations, you can do so much more that gives back and also, again, has economic returns while still making sure that there's that safety net there. And I actually think that I am not an economist, but I think there needs to be more economical scoping to really see that there is an actual return when we make those type of investments. So I'm very interested in that from a policy perspective.
Thank you. Yes. And I concur. I'll tell you a little bit about my journey, but a lot of folks, I'm going to be a little vulnerable here because I do not talk about this. Most people actually think that my hand is my disability. It is a disability, but I was actually born with spina bifida. I had an opened spinal cord, and I ended up with a tethered spinal cord. So in 1974, a long time ago, they didn't have anything to warn my parents or warn anybody that I was going to be the way I was. And so they strapped me to a board, ran me out of the room. Parents did not know what was going on, and the vast majority of my life I've been spending dealing with neurological, bladder, leg, all kinds of related issues. And I bring this up because everybody says, oh, you're so well adjusted with your hand. I mean, you really handle it well. And the reality is that's what makes us all special, is that if we're in this room, we have handled what life's dealt us. And as we go through this journey and talk about entrepreneurism, and we will continue to do so, this is what makes us who we are. And the ability to get up every morning, do what you need to do, and keep driving forward. And so along those lines, going into the business a little bit, the challenge that we have had along this way of being recognized as a disability-owned business, losing that recognition because we had to raise outside capital because we grew 700% last year. I'm very proud of that. And it was a great year, and we've done very well, but we outgrew our money 3 times last year. And so we had to raise more money, and eventually I stopped being the majority owner of the company, and we actually lost our standing as a disability-owned business, if you can imagine that. The same organizations that want to have you support these big organizations, you have to be big to support them. We have 6,800 people that are ready to rock, and I lost my standing. So those are the types of things. And then on the supply side, we also deal with that same thing. I want to empower people to become financially independent, but we pay very, very well. And then what ends up happening is if I pay too well, they lose their benefits. And they say, I got to stop working for YellowBird. That is not a good sign for our society that's trying to empower people. So I have a lot to say on the subject, but I'm not going to right now.
We'll get into it more.
So, I'm trying to remember the question. Right?
Sorry, I talked to you.
No, TBI.
I can repeat it for you.
Please.
Yeah, so the question was to share a bit about your entrepreneurship journey.
Okay.
And what are specific challenges or hurdles that you've experienced, specifically on the policy side. So I was talking about Medicaid, Medicare, and, for example, Social Security. Many of us are afraid of making money because we might put risk of losing benefits, right? And so how have you navigated those challenges as an entrepreneur?
I married a sugar mama. No. Let me focus. I'm only- Okay, we need to laugh more. I am serious. We need to laugh more. Life is good and filled with challenges. That's why we need to laugh more. So like I will make us laugh as much as possible. Now let me focus before I forget the question. Right? SSDI, and I'm SSI, is supposed to help, but actually it does hinder. It puts a limit on a person's right to dream without limits. When you put a limit on a person's income to be able to have basic health care and a basic income, because the money is not, you're not getting rich if you are on SSI or SSDI. And so to say that you can only have $2,000 in your possession limits a person's ability to dream limitlessly. And that's a problem for all Americans, period. I don't care whether you have a disability or know somebody who does. The problem is, if we can get more people with disabilities to dream limitlessly, we can help our GDP, which can put more money back into the pot, and guess what? Everybody wins. Woo! Everybody. And so we need to get these minimums off, unless you have $5 million. Because even if you have 1 million, having a disability is very expensive. Very, very. 1 million is not going to help us. Neither will 2 over time. We have to pay for a lot of extra stuff. Like if I'm tired, I cannot drive. I cannot shop. I have to use Instacart, right? I have to use an Uber. Even with the car. I have a car. But like sometimes the brain is like, sit down. And like I have to, for my safety and for others. And so let's work on getting the government to basically drop these stupid minimums and to increase the maximum for able accounts. $20,000 in the state of Kansas is dismal. It is a crying shame. We can't even take a good vacation because of our other expenses. I'm gonna quiet down now. And so with my disability, focus, Ruby, I'm trying, right? I was a school social worker for many years. And then I had a car accident, which chucked me out of work. And my doctors would not sign me back I'm in. And I tried a whole lot of different doctors. Focused I am. And so I wanted to feel productive. And so nobody would hire me because of my limitations. They're not gonna have me take a nap whenever I needed to. And so I really had to start my own company so that I can feel like I am still productive. Even with my disability, I am even more. And so that's how my disability with my entrepreneurship. I hope I answered that.
Yes, you did. Great. No, I love what each of you shared, and I'll also take a moment and be vulnerable myself. So I'm a U.S. citizen, but I grew up in Mexico, and so when I came to the States for college, I basically was on government assistance programs and things like that. And it's been through an entrepreneurship journey that I've been able to get out of those programs, and now I am off most of those programs and doing really well through an entrepreneurship journey. But to everyone's point, we have to find creative ways to navigate that because of the systematic barriers. But to your point, Ruby, the fact that we use these other services actually stimulates the economy, right? The more we're able to utilize Instacart, Uber, all of those services that we need as disabled people, and we have adequate resources to do that through hopefully entrepreneurship, we can stimulate the economy for everybody. So it's not a charity, it's actually benefiting everyone and making a more inclusive, yes, it's benefiting everybody and making a more inclusive economy for everybody. So awesome. I want to shift gears in a little bit and talk to Max specifically because, we talked about different supports and different structures that we use. And Max, I see you have your mom with you, and I think your journey has been one of very interesting sort of supported entrepreneurship journey, right? Where your family has played an important role. So I'm wondering if you can share a bit about what role does your family play in supporting you be a successful entrepreneur?
During my 1821 nutrition program, I got to try a different jobs. I did not have a choice to for jobs. I don't like doing the same thing over and over, and I want to get a job wherever I could be social and talk to people and make an impact.
Yeah, and then you can tell them a little bit about.
Yes. My business must work for my family schedule too. At first, I want to have a food truck, but I cannot drive. I have a great team, my family, and they help me. My sister Maggie manages my socials and website. My mom help with marketing and schedule, and my dad knows about sales.
So there's a saying, right? It takes a village, right? And I think you're a prime example of all of us coming together and supporting you in the best way possible to still live a very independent and fulfilling life. So thank you for sharing. Yeah. All right, Michael, let's go over to you. Let's talk a little bit about the role of technology. You mentioned technology and technology companies, and obviously many of us, when we think about entrepreneurship, we think about technology and technology innovation. So can you talk a little bit about, obviously, the role that technology plays in your company, but how you see it leveling the playing field for entrepreneurs with disabilities in general?
Absolutely, thank you. You won't be able to see this, but this is a slide that I have that is basically a map of all the data points that our AI uses to find the right person to do the right job. And it looks like a bunch of spider webs. But the reality is that people have been talking about AI pretty consistently for the last 2 years. And as somebody who can tell you firsthand that AI is a wonderful, wonderful tool and can make things accessible and better and accelerate common needs and goals to improve people's lives, I can also tell you, as everybody has read, that, it used to be back, again, I'm probably one of the older people on this panel, garbage in, garbage out, right? Well, now AI is learning from all the garbage, and so you need to use it sparingly, and you need to use it with the data that you want controlled. And in doing so, you can actually teach it the right way of doing things. The entire business that we're operating is, I mentioned the term superpowers. I truly do believe that We all have a unique competency. We all have unique capabilities, every single person in here. And just because you have the same background or just because you have the same certification or just because you have the same education does not make you the right fit for a specific job. And it also doesn't make you the wrong fit for a specific job because you're looking at the wrong data points. And so we have, as a company, dedicated as many resources as we can to move our cause forward, which is what I'm passionate about, the reason I'm sitting on this stage, which is helping those who are disenfranchised, underappreciated, or underworked to get opportunity, but also use those same skills for a for-profit business so that I can keep the business running. And unfortunately, that means raising capital from venture capitalists and actually we have to do twice as much because I'm not giving up on the mission. And so the easy way is give up on the mission and go and just make a tech company. But it's not going to happen that way. From my perspective, the reason technology is at its heyday right now is every single person in here is going to need some kind of an accommodation at some point in time. Everybody. There's not, like Bob said earlier, accommodation is not a bad word. It is, we all need it. No matter who you are, there is a point in time in your life that you will need that. And technology is making it more accessible for everybody. And now you just need to make sure you're using it for good and not evil. Right. And so I could talk about this subject all day long, but I think I covered it, maybe?
Yes,
okay.
yes, great. So Ruby, so Michael talked about fundraising. We talked about different structures of perhaps organizing businesses, right, in a way that entrepreneurs can succeed. Because your role is focused on financial inclusion and financial freedom for underrepresented communities, how do you see that world, including entrepreneurs with disabilities, from the lenses in which you work?
First of all, the world, we need more research on families and with individuals with disabilities investing in the stock market, right? I have not found it yet. I have found race. I have found income-based. I have not found disabled people and families investing in the stock market. Percentage-wise, it could be out there. I just have not found it. Julie, we will be talking. And so we really need that information to basically drive like policy changes. And we also need brokerage firms to begin to reach out to our community to say that you are welcome. We do want your money. We can help you build generational wealth because compound interest, baby, is magical. Yes. It is magical, but the only compound interest disabled people are like currently using is more harmful than helpful, and that's credit cards, right? Credit cards compound too, but like that's not gonna help us. But what is it? They'll give you a credit card quick, but they don't want you investing just as quick. And so like we need to begin to talk about disabled families building financial legacies no matter our income. We can do it. And I'm going to be short, right? Generational poverty is passing on an asset to the next generation without the education to grow it. Generational wealth is passing on an asset with the education to grow it. With that said, it means that anybody here can build generational wealth.
Whoop, whoop. There you go. And Ruby, just as a spoiler, we're working on that database.
I would appreciate it.
Yes. Awesome. So Miles, let's go to you. There was a lot of talk about policy changes, research.
Yeah.
So would love to hear from where you sit in the foundation and the broader entrepreneurship ecosystem. What changes do you see possible for underrepresented founders in general, but also for disability specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think what's really powerful is that there is now all of a sudden this across the country an intentional focus on entrepreneurship, and that it is really a key lever to economic mobility, to generational wealth building. I think that language actually, in a lot of ways, framed around entrepreneurship is relatively new. We have always been a country that has been based on innovation and entrepreneurship, but for a long time it was really for a very select gender and race. And it wasn't really for the masses. And I think there's a much more intentional understanding that there is a way for everyone to be able to contribute in their unique lens and with their unique life experience to the American dream through entrepreneurship. With that being said, we focus a lot on what we call capital access, right? How do we make sure that, entrepreneurs that are starting out can actually get access to funds to really build out their business? But I think what's really fascinating is that there's very little in the field that is focused on people with disabilities. So, one thing that I think could be really helpful and we work a lot with CDFIs as, again, institutions that are providing lower interest loans for entrepreneurs and really thinking about how do they center themselves around community. Well, how can you embed more benefit navigators within those type of entities so that when there's a client that comes that is running a business and has a disability, they can navigate some of those challenges that they may be dealing with. It's not a perfect solution. We ultimately want to get rid of those minimal amounts that people are allowed to have, but we know policy change takes a long time, right? We're not going to have that overnight. How do we embed some of these navigators to make sure that that is at least an opportunity and people can think through their plan in a way that's intentional? I think the other piece, we work with a lot of entrepreneurial support organizations, right? That's primarily as a foundation. We actually don't fund directly entrepreneurs. We're not allowed to. But we can fund organizations that support entrepreneurs, so that tend to be nonprofits. And again, there's very little kind of technical assistance or support to a lot of those entrepreneurial support organizations that help them know how to have these more intentional conversations so that they can be more supportive. The one thing I think that we need to recognize is that disability is intersectional, right? So we focus a lot on, Black and brown founders and how do we make sure that they have access to entrepreneurial tools, but disabilities crosses across all of that, right? And so how do we recognize that that is an extra layer that we need to consider and support within our funding? And then the last thing I'll just say from kind of a policy intersectional piece, right, is I think broadband access is super important. Obviously, we've had a big investment now from the federal government with the infrastructure bill and BEAD funding. So that is bringing more broadband access. I know Kansas has had a really interesting state plan to really get it more into rural areas. But now it is time with that federal investment. How do we make sure that from a local government level and still from a state level, that digital equity is being focused on to make sure that there's the right training access, to make sure there's the right navigation to be able to use better broadband access. That's a great way for folks, again, we often talk about it for rural entrepreneurs because sometimes to reach their customer, right, they need to be able to have better broadband access. But again, when we think about people with disabilities that are navigating different situations, being able to have that access, being able to make sales online like you're doing, can be a great way to reach that customer. And again, bring that special light, that special view that you uniquely have that no one else can compete with. with. So I think that these are some of the elements. One last thing I'll add. In our, we just rolled out our new grant making, and we have 4 focus areas. And one of those focus areas is belonging and participation. I think that another component of this work, there's policy change that needs to happen, there's additional funding, there's research that needs to happen. I think all that is true, but we also have to tell the stories, right? We have to change the conversation. Too much of the conversation has centered around, this idea of what is high growth, innovation, in entrepreneurship, the tech kind of startups. But the truth is you go into any community, what makes a community vibrant is who is on that main street. It's who is working in their homes and adding to the texture and the vibrancy of that community. It is not some flashy tech startup.
Yes,
it's actually what makes our places and spaces unique
Yes.
and innovative. And we need to make sure that everyone is contributing to that story. And so why aren't we highlighting folks that have disabilities, that run companies? Because their stories are unique and they are telling a version of themselves that many people don't get to see, right? That is not disability first. It's actually what they're contributing to the world first.
Right.
And so I think we need to change the story.
Yes. Flipping that narrative.
Can I have one follow up on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to have one follow up because you've just nailed a point that is so painful for, and I am actually the fancy tech entrepreneur. I know. It's okay. No, I know. Yeah. No. I'm actually not. You're right. I am much more impressed with the ice cream makers and the seasoning companies than I am with YellowBird. Believe me. But along those lines, I would say that one of the things we need to do better, if you're going to be an accessible company and you're going to provide access for all, that you provide funding resources to make them accessible and available for all. And I'll give you a perfect example. I mean, I'm a techie weenie. This is what I do. But for us to make our site fully accessible is the amount of dollars that I don't have. Like, I need to survive long enough to be able to make it fully accessible. And those are the types of decisions when you're sitting in my chair. It's like, I know I have this mission. I know we want to accomplish this. I want to make this happen. And now I have a choice to make.
Right.
I can survive and focus on English right now and go forward without being fully accessible, or I can double down and hope that somebody will grant money or provide money that's not going to be justified by revenue. And those decisions are brutal, and they're real. And I think people underestimate. They you call yourself a disability-owned business. You don't have everything designed around disability. And the reality is, like, but I sure want to. And
Right.
I just can't do it yet. And those are the types of things that we're talking to, hopefully organizations that will sponsor to help innovate that type of innovation that will help us make it accessible for everybody.
Amazing. And that's, just to kind of put a bow on that, but I think that's where entrepreneurship support organizations can be helpful, right? In sort of thinking about those questions and plugging in resources, plugging in startups with the right resources. And then to your point, Miles, I think that one thing that I would like to highlight on storytelling, I think I've shared this with you already, but part of our work with Kauffman in the past, we did a blog post, I think, in your blog, and because of how prominent Kauffman is in the entrepreneurship ecosystem, I was actually invited to participate in the Small Business Advisory Committee to the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission, mouthful. But that's the federal commission that looks at interest rates and what's the definition of accredited investors and all of that. And that is systems change work at the highest level, right? And that happened very much because of this storytelling, because of this flipping the narrative. So my invitation to all of you as we wrap up the panel would be to continue to share your story, to continue to frame disability as a competitive advantage. That's my hope through this panel, that you were able to see that through disabilities, disability can actually be a competitive advantage for innovation, creativity, resiliency, and that we're going to be successful not in spite of our disabilities, but in many ways because of our disabilities. So unfortunately, we don't have time for questions, but I think that's a great way to end. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, the panelists. And I hope this was indeed better than ice cream.
Don't answer that. Don't answer that.